Hello, today's video is called 12 Angels Part 2. Today is October 3rd, 2021. As you know, due to increasing censorship, I will be replacing words. So when I say tattoo, I mean this. When I say Peter, I mean this. Pin proteins or pin means this. P women means this, and veil that. And as you know, I will be also using the pilot's alphabet. So for example, the word this will be saying Delta November Alpha. Also, at the end of each slide, you will have the source in yellow in the bottom. In this video, I will show you evidence that tattoos on P women are the wrong path for humanity. The agenda for today is an official mandate, looking at details, looking at facts, and closing comments. Let's look at what Canadian and the US governments are saying about P women and tattoos. This is from the website of the Canadian government, and it's saying that it's obviously safe and is recommended, that they want us to have this type of tattoos, that there is no problems of this type, etc. But we learned from this video that actually there is a way of doing changes on Delta, November, Alpha, and most importantly, there is a possibility to create patents as a result of those changes. The same details are visible for the US website, so it's recommended, is safe, is effective, there is no issues, etc. So same situation. But let's look at the details. The first thing that we notice is that both websites are talking about people, not women. Why? Everybody knows that only women can have babies because they need ovaries and wombs and birth canals, etc. And only females have all of those. However, let's see what these bad people are doing. I found a Chinese study from July 2021 that was able to create this monstrosity, to say the very least. And again, if I can find this, you can imagine what they're really doing. In short, they castrated pairs of rats from both genders, and then they sew them together so they could share blood. Then they transplanted both uterus and embryos into the males, and after 8 weeks they actually were able to deliver pups with a C-section. So if you want to look into the details, as usual, links are there. This is clearly an abomination, and also a reminder that these people who are controlling this planet have a very clear, dark, negative path for humanity. Every single action follows a logic. There is a plan. Nothing is random. Nothing is isolated. Everything is interconnected. And even if it seems very innocent to us, such as this kind of thing, now we know where this all gets linked together. But let's focus for now on P women, and let's look at some facts. We are going to have to describe a little bit of what pins mean, because everybody talks about this, but I haven't spent much time explaining what that means. And there are these endings that are toxic, and they can easily attach to what is called the ACE2, that are enzymes within the lungs of us humans. And they have the perfect structure not only to regulate the blood pressure, but also they have the perfect type of ability to bind or attach to this type of situation. In the video case 221, we spoke about a confidential document that was prepared by Peter, showing concentration of pins at different time frames after taking the tattoo. This document was endorsed by 600,000 physicians in the US. Here is the link, here is the video if you want to see exactly what I mean. But let's talk only about the specific confidential document from this company, Peter. So here you're going to see this is the concentration in milligrams across the time. So what they did is here at 48 hours, you can see a concentration on the ovaries at 12.3 milligrams, and at the spleen, 23.4. If you quickly scan through the rest of the numbers, you'll see that these are the two highest numbers. What does this mean? Well, two things happen after 2 days. The first one is that the pins traveled. All the data that we have read, and we're going to see a little bit of that in a minute, talks about the fact that it stays in the deltoid muscle. That is exactly where it's being injected in the arm. Well, that's clearly not true. The other thing that they're saying is that there is no concentration, etc., towards any specific areas. But here we're seeing is exactly the opposite. Let's look at these two key areas and what they're responsible for. The spleen is actually here. You can see the diagram, and it's responsible for keeping the purity of your blood. And then everybody knows what the ovaries do. They are very important for the reproduction system. They release hormones, they protect the eggs, and they release the eggs for fertilization. So you can imagine that concentration in these two areas is actually quite damaging for us as humans. Here we see the clear denial in less than 1 month. This was published July 2nd, 2021, Nebraska Medicine. And then we see here that they are saying, oh, there are some concerns about the pins and they can be concentrating the ovaries and the brain. Well, that's clearly happening as well. But there's no evidence. Everything is just not even accumulating in one organ. We just saw that's not the case. The denial continues. Here it says it remains in the site of the place where we injected. There's only a peak at 8 hours and then it goes down. But we know from this chart that nothing that they're saying is true. Here we see this is the 8th hour and this is the 48 hours. Ovaries has a measurement of 3.09 milligrams, and then at 48, 12.3. That's a jump of almost 300%. In the spleen, the jump is not so high between 8 hours and 48, but clearly it's not plateauing. It's actually going up. So clearly the official report is misleading because it doesn't stay in the area, it's traveling, and it doesn't peak at 8 hours. So if I can find this, you can imagine how much more data everyone who's responsible for doing scientific studies should be able to find it as well. Obviously, I will not focus on what the official reports are saying, but the findings from the video that I disclosed on 221, that once again is supported by 600,000 physicians in the US. After the tattoo, the placenta gets infected and it creates miscarriages in 40% of women. And also by April, this is from the document of June, so that's why the data is a little bit old, but we're going to see something a little bit more fresh. After 4 months of mass tattoos, we have 3,000 reports of failed pregnancies. And here, as I was sharing, 9 months after starting the tattoos, now the numbers are doubling. 40% at 4 miscarriages, 80%, 9 months miscarriages. We have studies now that show that tattoos can create the risk of miscarriage. And actually pins can be transferred via breastfeeding. Also from that video 221, page 68 talks about the fact that the breastfed infants develop bleeding disorders in the gastrointestinal tract. So that sounds really painful and not something you want to do to your babies. We also know that fertility is being affected. There is a video from Dr. Ryan Cole that talks about the fact that from the Peter report, the rats that are the most fertile of all mammals saw a fertility decline of 16%. So you can imagine that we can project an issue with humans who actually, believe it or not, has only 0.3% functional fertility rate at the max. So that's not very high. So where are the studies that are showing that it's safe, that it's effective, that there are no issues? If anything, every video, every article, everything that I find is showing the opposite. One example from this video from Dr. Cole shows the clear inflammation. Here is the visuals from the human lung as a result of pins from the tattoos. He also shows inflammation on kidneys, brains, heart, and lungs. Pins actually cross the blood-brain barrier. That's very important because there is this theory that I work sometimes with, that there is something that is creating this aggression from people who get the tattoos against those of us who choose not to do that. So maybe that's what is happening. An aggravating factor is the fact that when we combine tattoos and veils, we're going to see a problem. Every single one of the websites is going to tell you you have to combine. After you get the tattoo, you have to keep on wearing the veil. But there is an issue. There is a study from the European Respiratory Journal that took place a long time ago, 2005. They were comparing workers that were wearing veils 7 days a week, 8 hours every day, and after only 3 months, they did a measurement of something called the tumor necrosis factor. That is the level of inflammation in your lungs that is typically associated with cancer. This has been clear for doctors for over 20 years. And they did the measure and they found that it was 7.5 times higher on those who wear veils. So they even showed after only 3 months pieces of polypropylene. These are the pieces from the plastic veils that remain in your lungs forever. This never gets out of it. So obviously this explains why they want us to wear veils after we take the tattoo. It is my belief that this mandate is designated to create maximum damage over the world population. Don't forget, this magical solution was developed in just 2 days. And we're also giving tattoos to everyone, even though Look at the number. This is the mortality rate according to the world data. We had in 2002 something called SAM Alpha Rubert. SAM, you know what I mean here? And it had a mortality rate 5 times higher than this, but never happened here. Why is it happening now? We're going to talk about that in the end. Why are we doing all of this? Does this sound right to you? Even the government are telling us there is an issue. This is a report for Ontario in Canada less than 2 weeks ago, and they were showing that the immediate side effects include allergic reactions, nerve damage, blood clots, inflammation of the heart, inflammation of the lining of the heart. And here we see that the reports are including children and something as really bad as acute respiratory distress syndrome. If you are trying to protect everyone from this, but you're seeing this, there is clearly a contradiction. Closing comments. The most frequently asked question I get every single time is why? Why is this happening? My personal belief is that we are in the Third World War. It's not between nations like the previous two, but it's between us, the majority, and the government, that is the minority. If you believe that that's the case, which I believe, they're seeking these, I can't say that word because I'll get pulled, and they want to control the survivor. If you want to see a little bit more of details, you can watch my video, What is Spiritual War? Until we unite as one and obliterate them, because we are the majority, protect life, say no to the tattoos. Thank you very much.